Awesome. Hey. Welcome to the Banff Show, where we discuss what people are up to, startup culture, and what the community's up to. And guess what? Today we are having the possible council members in and mayors in today. So, do you mind introducing yourself and what inspired you to run for council?
Not at all. So my name's Allan Buckingham. I've been in town for about 15 years. I'm excited to run for council. This is my second time. I actually ran in the last election as well, because I really want to make sure that our community is taking advantage of all the opportunities we have before us to be the community we want to be in 50 years from now. So I think we really need to look at things like our physical space and how we're limited there, and our commercial cap and how we're limited there, and see those as opportunities to be a really exciting model community that does things differently in the world. And I think that could be really cool, and I would be proud to be part of a community that does that. But in order to do that, we need to be looking at with this in place, what's that going to look like in 50 years? We need to work back and take the steps to get there, because otherwise we're just going to be like doing something here and doing something there, and we might not end up with the effects that we actually want to get to that end, because it's not a normal way to live with those constraints, but I think the world needs to do it, and I think we can be that model.
Awesome. So how are you going to get there in 50 years? And what's your goals for 50 years from now? To start all these up to make them sustainable? How are you going to do it?
Totally. I mean, and that's part of the fun challenge. And I don't have all the answers, and I'm very clear. I've got lots of ideas, and some of them suck and some of them are great.
I love your honesty.
But we want to have that conversation, right? And so the community needs to figure out where we want to be in 50 years. And so there's different ways we can do that. One big part of that is the community plan. And the Banff Community Plan is due to be redone. We're just waiting for Parks Canada's management plan to become official and not draft anymore. And then we're going to start working on our community plan. And so then taking that community plan, that's usually about a 10-year thing, but I want to make that a little bit bigger. Let's look 50. Here's what the first 10 will look like to try and get there. There's a lot of community conversation that happens to see what that 50 or 100 or whatever target we decide to look on. And then you kind of break it down. Okay, so what steps? And as we do anything, we say, okay, how does that help us get to here? And if it doesn't, or if there's side effects that might hurt getting there, then we want to maybe plan a little differently, right? But I think if we're just saying, we need to increase our transportation and how we move people around in better public transportation, that's great. I'm all over that. How do we make sure that hits that vision? If we do it in kind of this way and it starts taking us over here, then maybe we're doing it wrong, right? So knowing where we want to end up helps us as we're planning all those individual pieces. Because I can easily see us taking a transportation strategy here, maybe a housing strategy here, but our destination's on this side, right? And so, but we're starting to move over here just because that makes sense and is easy and it's solving the current problem. But solving the current problem doesn't necessarily solve those long-term ones. So that's the kind of thinking I want to bring, and I think we need to be doing.
That is awesome that you're thinking the long term, not just the short term, and I really like that. And what's your biggest concerns that you want, because you said you have some awesome ideas, some ideas you're not sure about, and I'm so excited to hear what you're bringing to the table.
Well, I mean, and again, I like to throw out the ideas, right? So, I said, I think so. I mean, and to me, that's part of what being a councillor, being a governor is about, right? You're setting ideas, you're setting direction. You're not figuring out the details on how to get there. That's what administration does. And then they come back and say, okay, here's what we figured out to how to get there. Does that make sense? Are we following what you said? And then you say yes or no, right? And so that's part of what I love about that role. And I've had the opportunity to do it in different places too. And so I've got lots of experience in that governing role, and I love it. It's so much fun. Reading the documents, thinking big, having those big conversations, I live for that. So back to the ideas. That was your question.
That's okay. I love it. Keep going.
So I would really like to see us looking at, say affordability in housing, right? So we have a limited amount of space. Yes, we can continue to densify, but as we do that, are we thinking through not just what makes sense and how do we figure out costs, but what kind of people do we want in our community? And are we making sure that with what we have, we're building the kinds of houses we need? So for example, a lot of the housing corporation, and I'm currently chair of the Banff Housing Corporation board, right? So I've been in lots of these conversations, and we've got a lot of what I would say is traditional suburban type housing in Middle Springs and whatever. And a lot of people think that's the kind of housing families want and need, which might be true. But I know that there's a lot of other places. We've taken international students over the years from the high school, And so we've had lots of people who live as a family of 3, family of 4, in apartments that are sized for them, right? So what kind of apartment housing are we looking at building that is 1,200, 1,400 square feet, that is a lot bigger than what our apartments are these days in town? And how do we make that in an affordable way so that a family could choose to live downtown in an apartment, right? If all the family housing is in Middle Springs, well, some people just want to be able to walk around town in 5 minutes and not have to go up and down the hill, right? And so what are these different ways that we can look at that? So that looking at how we do some of that density stuff, I think is important. I also think it's important to look at when we're having change of uses from a gift shop to a restaurant, which is all good, and the market needs to help decide what kind of services we need in town, absolutely. But when we make that change, you're running 2 people who run a store, or maybe even 1 person who can run that piece of property to like 5 or 6 or 10. And that's a lot more pressure on how much housing we need. So what ways can we encourage businesses to think differently and to model what they're doing differently so that maybe rather than making a restaurant that needs 5 or 6 people, they can do it in 2 or 3. And I don't even know if that's possible, but I'd like to have us making those encouragements and, getting business people to think about how can we run our stuff differently? Not like how do we do a bad job with less people, but how do we change our models so that we can work with less people? Because the less demand there is on housing, the less things keep being pushed up and the more affordable it ends up being. And I recognize there's a lot of complexity there. People think of housing as investments and it needs to go up, and there's lots to have that conversation about. But we have that limited space. We have a limited amount of people that are going to fit in our community, and Parks does want a limit on actual numbers of people. If we're not being really conscious about what that means and how we do that, we're going to run into the problem anyway, and we're going to be like, now what? So rather than running like, now what are we going to do? Let's plan. We know that's the case. How do we get there in a good way?
I love how you're thinking about this and like how you actually have a plan, like, or even if you don't have the direct idea, you're like coming up with like sustainable ideas around the problem, and that's awesome. And do you have any other problems that you're looking at in the community?
Oh, I mean, I could go on forever, Sage. I don't know if that's the good use of time, but I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. But like, I would love to see a way that we can have some of our businesses. Maybe they're thinking long-term in their legacy and whatever. Maybe they want to donate a building downtown to the municipality or to a business corporation that's kind of like the housing corporation that would look at doing rents differently, that would look at trying to encourage services that locals want more rather than visitors, that might want to be like this startup that's a great idea, but they just don't have the funding and the backing and they can't figure out, it's not that it's bad, it's not that they're going to fail. It's just that they're not hitting that high bar standard that the bank has to give them a loan for $500,000 to get this thing off the ground or whatever, right? Because their financing, their rent is just too high to make that all work, right? I don't know. Just what are different ways that we can look at doing that kind of stuff, right? I like to think big. I like to think all over the place. And like I said, some of them are horrible ideas. Like, I get that. And that's why it's great to have a council, right? Like, it's not just me going in to run stuff, thank God. It's a group of people who are going to have these conversations and be like, yeah, actually that makes sense. And let's look at these other, and it's not just council, right? There's discussion, especially on the big stuff that goes beyond that. And we incorporate the community, and we're going to get stuff wrong still, and we're going to change our mind, and we're going to adjust.
That's the best part. You learn from it.
And absolutely you learn. And it's one thing I've really appreciated about recent councils is they've made some decisions and they've gone, ooh, that was a poor choice, and they changed their mind, right? Like, and that's great. It doesn't, like, we're going to have to live with bad choices because we all make bad choices. But we need to learn from it, and we need to be, but I think if we have the plan as well, then we're doing more to get there long term. Anyway.
Exactly, and that's awesome. And you said there's so much experience that you bring to the table, and you were telling me that before we went on camera. Can you like explain to like the audience like some of the experience you're bringing? Yeah,
sure. So I mean, I have a lot of volunteer experience on committees and boards, both at the national and international level. I've dealt with budgets, tens of thousands to tens of millions. Like, I know how to read financial statements. I know what that's all about, and I love being there, and I love having those conversations. I've been super fortunate to be in those situations growing up. I've also, my work experience, is kind of helpful too, but not tons. I mean, that's the thing with work experience. So I've worked in event planning, so I know what it is like to plan something and see it through, and technology consulting. I've done a lot of helping people who they neither want to do something, and how do they do it, right? So that's what all my consulting stuff is, right? You go into somebody and they say, I'd love to do this. How do I do that? And then I can present a bunch of different options and say, okay, what I hear is that you kind of want this and whatever. So I like taking what people are saying, kind of synthesizing it through what my knowledge is and what I've heard and learned, and reflecting it back to them saying, okay, is this what you're after? And then here's kind of how you get there. It's super great fun, and I've done it lots. And I've actually just starting a new business as well, helping people sort out life and money, which is, again, they're like, here's how I want to live in the Bow Valley, but it's really expensive and I don't know if I can do it, right? And so I'm not selling anything. I don't sell insurance or investments or any of that stuff. It's just about the conversation. It's about the advice. So you say, okay, I want to live here. And we say, okay, here's your life now, here's what you want your life to be, here's what you want your life to be later, and your money has to support that along the way. So how do we do our best to put a plan in place to support that along the way? So again, to me, it's a very similar job, just with different things as my other consulting stuff, but it's helping people solve their problems, helping people live the life they want to live, do the things they want to do. And I'm really excited. I was just getting started and I wasn't sure I was going to run again, but I had enough people in the community say, are you running for council? I really think you should. I think it's an important voice. So not that that's on hold, it's just going a lot slower than it might have otherwise, because I really was just getting started. But I'm excited to do that too. And I think I can balance that with a part-time role on council, because I read all the council documents anyway, because I'm geeky like that. I often watch the live stream. Like, it's not like it's a whole lot of it's new work that I'd be doing, but I'm doing a lot of it already because I like it. It's super fun.
And you have a passion towards it. Like, we can see it, and all the things you're doing, they line up with it. And I like how you're listening to, like, what all your future council members might be saying, and then you can bounce ideas off and be like, do you think of this? Like, you're not, like, judging. You're more like, hey, let's work together. Let's do this. Like, I really like that about you.
Well, thanks. Yeah, that's definitely my philosophy.
And one question we're asking all the candidates, what are you planning to do if you don't get in for council?
Oh, you keep doing the thing, like outdoor life planning. It's my new thing that I'm starting. Like, if I can focus more time there.
Oh. I'll get you on the show for your other
yeah, maybe.
Like, you're coming back.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to. Like, it's I got lots of ideas, lots of things I can do. You can only kind of fit so many things in. So I can go back to doing some of that other stuff I've been doing before too. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to be involved in the community still, right? Like, I'm currently chair of the Banff Housing Corporation. I will continue to be involved. I've been on many towns, work groups and committees over the years as well. So it's not like I'm going away anywhere. I still will go to council and give my 2 cents when I need to and write letters. Like, that all still happens. But I'm really hopeful this time around that I will actually get one of those seats on council. It's great that we are going to get a little more guaranteed turnover. Last time we just had one open seat and only one that had a new person, and this time we've got at least 3. We could get more. History says that's not going to happen, but it could. But we're going to get at least 3 new faces on council, which I think is important. Not that the folks currently have done horrible jobs in my point of view necessarily, but it's just good to get some new ideas and some, different voices, and the diversity of that conversation I think is important, and we need to keep it.
Bringing new ideas to the community.
That's right.
I love that.
Yeah.
So much, and I love what you're doing. Is there anything else you want to tell the audience? Like, something that you want to, like, push for, or, like, your goals if you do get in, or, like, why should they vote for you?
I think to me, if you want somebody who comes with experience, so I'm not learning about how this governing thing works on the fly. If you want somebody who's comfortable in the financials and can work through stuff, but who also listens and loves that conversation and respects all the different voices at the table and in the community, I might be a good vote for you. You can look me up if you want more information. My website, allanbuckingham.ca, has a lot of information. I've been doing little videos and whatever because I can do text, so why not? So you can, if you don't want to read stuff, you can just watch the videos on different points of view I have on some different ideas. So you can learn a lot more at the website, allanbuckingham.ca. I'm on Facebook and whatever too. You can find all that. But I'm bringing a long-term vision, sustainability all around for the community, and that's our environmental sustainability, but our economic sustainability, our cultural sustainability. Like, we really need to be thinking through all of these things and planning for that future, because we want a cool Banff to live in now. I'm super proud of my community, and everywhere I go, I get to tell about some of these fun, exciting struggles that we have. And I want to be even more proud going forward, so,
like,
and we can do that. That's right.
Exactly.
I'd love to be a part of it, right? I think we all want to be a part of it in our own ways.
Exactly.
I'm just the kind of geeky person who wants to do that stuff in that meeting. So I'd love that opportunity.
That is so cool, and I wish you the best of luck, and thank you for coming on the show today.
Oh, thanks, Sage. It was my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity and the conversation.
This is so much fun, and I'm so bringing you back on the show later, like 100%.
Excellent. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks for watching, and check out all our other candidates or people running, and can't wait to see you in the next episode. That was awesome. Cool.